before 8000 BC wheat did not grow as prolifically as it does today. 1. Like 2, as 3, 4. Then 2. Both nickel and iron are whitish metals that are attracted by magnets. 1. That are attracted by magnets. 2. That magnets are attracted by them. 3. Are attracted by magnets. 4. Magnets that attract them. 3. The bark of some species of oak trees yields a substance used in treating leather. 1. Treating. 2. To treat. 3. Its treatment. 4. It treats. 4. Although phosphorus is an essential constituent of all living creatures, it is among the least abundant of the mineral nutrients. 1. What. 2. It. 3. Still. 4. However. 5. The three angles of any triangle always add up to 180 degrees. 1. If 3. 2. The 3. 3. 3 of 4. 3 are. 6. The gibbon ranges over a wider area than other apes do. 1. Then an area wider. 2. Wider than the area. 3. A wider area than 4. An area wider than r. 7. As it orbits the Sun, Uranus rotates on its axis, an imaginary line through its center. 1. For its 2. It. 3. As it. 4. There is. 8. Ordinarily, tariff duties are placed on commodities according to their value. 1. Ordinarily, tariff. 2. Ordinary tariffs are. 3. On ordinary tariff. 4. Tariffs are ordinarily. 9. About individuals who really existed and things that actually happened. 1. Folk tales which sometimes tell stories. 2. The stories of folk tales sometimes telling. 3. Stories sometimes told are when folk tales. 4. Folk tales sometimes tell stories. 10. Whenever matter in one form is transmuted to another form, a phase change is said to have taken place. 1. Such. 2. Then. 3. Whenever. 4. Seldom. 11. Noise, in the technical sense, implies a random chaotic disturbance that is usually unwanted. 1. Usually does not want. 2. Usually is unwanted. 3. That one does not usually want it. 4. That is usually unwanted. 12. During the late 1850s, the question of the best route for the overland mail to California was a topic of serious interest in the West. 1. Interest of a serious topic. 2. A serious interest of topic. 3. A topic of serious interest. 4. Serious interest of a topic. 13. In his book, Social Theory and Social Structure, sociologist Robert Merton explored why individuals behave in ways that society considers abnormal. 1. Those individuals whose behavior. 2. Why do individuals whose behavior. 3. Why individuals behave. 4. The behavior of those individual who. 14. Painting wooden buildings helps to protect them from damage due to weather. 1. Painting. 2. Painted. 3. The paint. 4. By painting. 15. Carbohydrates are the most abundant and least costly food sources of energy. 1. Least cost. 2. Least costly. 3. Less cost. 4. Fewer costs. 16. The Wright brothers' flyer, who they built and flew in 1903, became the world's first successful airplane. 17. Astronauts circling the Earth may get to see 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets every day. 18. The Chlasmosaur, a giant prehistoric sea reptile with fierce-looking jaws and flippers, had a muscular neck that accounted for much than half its length. 19. The tonometer is instrument used to study the mathematical relations of harmonic tones. 20 in the 1800s daguerreotypes were used a greatest deal, especially for portraits. 21 The invention of a cotton gin by Whitney in 1793 made cotton yam more economy than linen yam. 22 Among almost 700 species of bamboo, some are fully grown at less than a foot high, while other can grow 3 feet in 24 hours. 23 A foreign exchange rate is a price that reflects the relative supply and demand of different currencies. 24 Recent studies have shown that air into a house often has higher concentrations of contaminants than heavily polluted air outside. 25 Rock decay or weathering is the results of reactions between elements in the atmosphere and the rock's constituents. 26 The phases of the moon have served as primary divisions of time for thousands of years ago. 27 The introduction of the power loom enabled weavers to produce yard goods faster, more efficiently, and less expensive. 28 In the 1880s, when George Eastman first offered the Kodak camera and film, photography becoming a popular and individualized art. Films should have a beginning, middle, and an end, but in that order. A. Not necessarily being, C. Not necessarily, B. Do not necessarily, D. Necessarily is not to. Legend has it that enlightenment while sitting under the Bodhi tree by the river Niranjana. A. Attained the Buddha, B. The Buddha attained, C. Attaining the Buddha, D. The Buddha that attained. 3 Rainforest vines serve as a food source for the hungry caterpillar as it into butterfly. A. Metamorphoses, C. Has metamorphosed, B. Metamorphosed that, D. Does metamorphosed for. With Alzheimer's disease, by the time, too many neurons have died. A. The manifestation of all the symptoms, B. All the symptoms manifest, C. Manifested all the symptoms, D. Are all the symptoms manifest. 5 Born in Tabriz. Received his elementary education under his father's supervision. A. That the poet Shahryar, C. As the poet Shahryar, B. Shahryar was the poet, D. The poet Shahryar. 6. One element of outside-the-box thinking is previous assumptions. A. To falsify, C. For falsification, B. Falsified, D. That falsified. 7 Shari Sukt was deemed in June 2014 A. A World Heritage Site and C. A World Heritage Site, B. Of a World Heritage Site, D. Heritage a World Site. 8. In some people lactose remains in digestive tract and the small intestine. A. It is poorly absorbed by, C. Is poorly absorbed by it, B. By poorly it is absorbed, D. It is absorbed by poorly. 9 The tentacles of Porpita are in fact individual zooids. Is specialized for a particular function. A. Each of them, C. Each of whom, B. Each of which, D. Which each of 10. Shinkansen and TGV. For which devoted high-speed lines were built from scratch. A. How were the first systems, C. The first systems were, B. Were there the first systems, D. Were the first systems. 11 Hydropower may provide the foundation for more comprehensive frameworks. A. Of which issues encompass, C. That multiple issues encompass, B. have multiple issues encompass, d. encompassing multiple issues 12. France is the first state to shut down fissile material production facilities for nuclear weapons. A. It decided, c. which decided, b. which it decided, d. in which decided. 13. The British government has conceded. Has been a disaster. A. Of the new tax policy, c. the new tax policy that, b. that the new tax policy, d. which the new tax policy. 14. Shaharshanbi Suri ritual. Back to at least 1700 BC and is linked to the Zoroastrian religion. A. Dates, b. if it dates, c. dated, d. that dates. 15. Silver iodide, a yellow compound, is packed into a flare and ignited. Storm systems pass over the flare's location. A. which, c. meanwhile, b. whenever, d. with whom. 16. Long-term recovery efforts in flooded provinces should include damaged infrastructure which is directly related to the production potential. A. that restoration is, c. to restore, b. that restoration, d. restoring. 17. Shoals of fish such as tuna, can gathered only in the absence of predatory sharks. 18. Proto-Iranian tribes inhabiting most of the Iranian plateau and created the very fast specimens of pottery art around 4,000 years ago. Inhabited. 19. The fact that America has the most guns in the world is at the center of why the US's civilian gun death rate is nearly 4 times that of Switzerland. 20. Academics maintain that nanotechnology, the manipulation of matter on a molecular and submolecular scale, has enjoyed the highest rate of progress in the category of science material during the past decade. Scientific. 21. Painting is usually believed to have 6 elements: color, tonal, line, shape, space and texture. Tone. 22. The Relief Fund was started by the government to assisting university graduates pay back their student loans. To assist. 23. Anthropologists have encountered similarities between the Hood myths of distant cultures either in the characters of the story and in the way the events unfold. Both. 24. Ornithologists usually classify birds by assigning them to groups segregated based on their intelligence, the color of their plumage, and the shape of their bills. Intelligence. 25. In probability theory and statistic, the variables contained in a subset of a collection can have either a marginally or restrictive distribution. Marginal. 26. In the late 13th century the first Iranian parliament was approved the Persian constitution which was adapted from that of Belgium. Approved. 27. What enables giraffes to consume massive amounts of leaves is their capable to process fiber through their digestive tract in a matter of hours. Capability. 28. We are inhabited by as many of 10,000 bacterial species outnumbering those which we consider our own by 10 to 1, and weighing about 3 pounds the same as our brain. As many as 29. In 1356, Mojtaba Minovi's family donated his 20,000 volumes library to the Iranian government. Volume asterisk. 31. Rule of thumb for players of the barbut, a Persian musical instrument, are that they should support the weight with the thigh and right arm so that the left hand is free to move around the fingerboard. Is asterisk. The central processing unit of the laptop computer you use on a daily basis resides in a thin silver of silicon, about 1 square centimeter in area. This small chip contains over 100 million silicon MOSFETs, some type of tiny transistors, each about 1,000 times smaller than the diameter of a human hair. The slender computer that you nonchalantly stuff into your backpack has more computing power than vacuum tube computers that occupied an entire room 50 years ago. When you answer an incoming call on your cell phone, you may wonder inside your sleek mobile. If you opened it up, and knew where to look, you'd find some HBT's heterojunction bipolar transistors. These transistors operate at the high frequencies required for local area network telecommunications, and they can deliver the power necessary for the transmission of signals. Of course, a cell phone nowadays is no longer just a replacement for those clunking, tethered, handsets of not so long ago, it is also a camera and a jukebox. The immense storage requirements of these applications are met by flash memory, comprising more millions of silicon MOSFETs. Your cell phone is really a PDA, personal digital assistant, and probably also allows internet access, in which case you may wonder how signals from around the globe find their way into our machine. Somewhere in the communications chain there's probably a low noise amplifier to receive tiny signals and not add undue noise to them. HBTs are good for this, but even better are HEMTs, high electron mobility transistors. If satellites are involved, then the base station will employ high power transistors, possibly lateral diffused. Silicon MOSFETs, or maybe HJFETs, heterojunction field effect transistors. So, without straying very far from where you are sitting, you have tangible evidence of the dramatic influence electronics has on the way many of us conduct our business and recreation. All the different transistors mentioned above have the ability to reform in high-speed digital logic, at high frequencies, with low noise, at high output power, in semiconductor memory. Of course, our electronics-oriented activities would not be possible if the supply of electricity were curtailed. This could happen, either by the exhaustion of the Earth's store of fossil fuels, or by the threat to our habitable environment that the extraction and use of them entails. 1. The size of silicon MOSFET is A. 1000 mm in diameter, B. 1/100,000,000 of a centimeter, C. About 1 square centimeter in area, D. 1/1,000